everyone, it's Sevi. Welcome to my guide on our first free character, March 7th, the cutest trailblazing companion, photographer, cheerleader, and more. That is, until March 8th breaks out and replaces her. She's an ice preservation character that supports your team with her single target shielding and debuffing, with offensive capabilities through counter-attacking and freezing. She's also a top contender for the galactic record of most live stories, with 67 versions and counting. Though a free-to-play unit, March is a reliable and worthwhile investment for your support roster. So to help you maximize her amazing potential as a starter character, I'll be discussing her kit, abilities, Eidolons, best relic and light cone builds, and team synergies. Let's dive in.
Hello. Welcome aboard the Astral Express. My name is March 7th. We'll be working together.
March's skill is the core of her shield support kit. It gives a shield to one ally, and the shield health scales on her defense and lasts for 3 turns. With her defense-focused build path, March creates powerful single-target shields. Additionally, if the ally is at 30% or higher HP, they have an increased chance of being targeted by enemies. This helps you manage enemy aggro, and using it in tandem with certain units that actually want to get hit makes for interesting uses. March's skill gets even better as you unlock her Ascension bonus abilities. Her Ascension 2 ability lets her skill remove 1 debuff. This is amazing against enemies that love inflicting disabling effects, damage over time debuffs, and the like, helping you protect your teammates with more than just shielding. Then her Ascension 4 ability lets her shield last 1 turn longer. 3 turns for shielding is already generally enough, but an extra turn duration is very welcome, and this makes it easier for March to have multiple shields up simultaneously. While the general use is to shield March's teammates, it can also be a good idea to shield and aggro enemies to March herself too. As a preservation character, she's more likely to get hit by enemies, so combining that with her shield helps increase that likelihood, keeping enemies away from the characters you want to protect. Moving on, we have her talent, where when a shielded ally is attacked, March counterattacks. This can trigger 2 times per turn. Note that it doesn't have to be March's shield that gets hit, but rather shields from any source will count, which leads to interesting synergies and effects. With her own shield's taunt increase, this makes March's counterattack more likely to proc. It can also complement other preservation units' shielding abilities if they're teamed up with March. Inside Simulated Universe, when you get preservation blessings that focus on giving shields and shield-related effects, this makes it easier to maintain shield uptime. March's counterattacks also contribute to helping break enemies weak to ice, and they're another means of recharging March's energy since counterattacks give energy. There may be more benefits, but suffice to say, March's counterattacking mechanic provides some offensive potential to her kit and opens up particular team synergies. As for her ultimate, casting it deals ice damage to all enemies, which also has a 50% base chance of freezing enemies. Unlocking her A6 trace then adds 15% more to make this a 65% base chance. Having certain buffs and building effect hit rate stats can make her freeze chance more reliable. So aside from shielding, March's ultimate provides crowd control utility and further helps with breaking ice weak enemies too. Even if March is largely a shielder whose main utility is via her skill, don't underestimate the value her ultimate offers, as she can also be built and played to better utilize this part of her kit. Finally, if you use her technique to initiate combat, there's a 100% base chance of freezing an enemy and dealing additional ice damage. When considering what to prioritize first among her traces, I would first recommend always maxing her skill level for stronger shields. This can be followed by her talent to boost counterattack damage, then her ultimate. You can ignore her base attacks to save resources. If you have the materials to spare, unlock her abilities once you reach the respective ascension levels. Her stat bonuses also add more defense, effect resistance, and ice damage, so those are nice to unlock too. While March 7th is already very solid at C0, her Eidolons are amazing for boosting supportive and offensive capabilities. One way to guarantee March Eidolons is in the Starlight Exchange store, where 2 4-star characters cycle every month. It's still not certain what month she'll appear, but if you really like March, then you can save up and wait for her turn. We'll also just have to wait if and when she gets a rate up chance. Anyway, let's see what they do and how good they are. E1 lets March regenerate 6 energy when her ultimate freezes an enemy. This can proc on multiple enemies, so if you're up against crowds, it gains a lot of value and greatly reduces her energy needs. It's less effective in a single target scenario, but regardless, that's still potential additional energy. Having her A6 bonus ability and effect hit rate helps make this trigger more reliably too. For E2, when starting a battle, this shields the teammate with the lowest HP percentage. The shield scales on March's defense and lasts for 3 turns. It's instant shielding at the start of the battle, which doesn't require a skill point to help your skill point management. It can also let March shield 2 party members at the start if you do use her skill, helping with your overall team survivability and provides more opportunity to do counterattacks. E3 increases her ultimate and basic attack levels. E4 is another amazing Eidolon since it lets her counter 1 more time per turn, making it 3 times max. This results in more damage and potentially helping break enemies faster. Even better, her counterattacks get additional damage based on March's defense, which makes defense have additional offensive purpose and streamlines her stat build even more. E5 increases her skill and talent level by 2, which is more valuable than her E3. And E6 adds a new side roll to her overall kit because now her skill's shield also heals the shielded ally at the beginning of each turn. First of all, I do want to make it clear that this isn't a replacement for a dedicated healer, as the healing rate won't have the same potency as an abundance character. The healing also depends on the shield being intact. However, even if it's minor healing, that's still insanely good unexpected value and role consolidation for what's supposed to be a shielder unit. March becomes an even better comfort support for any team. Now let's discuss her build, starting with her preferred relic stats and sets. Since much of March's utility scales on defense, the most straightforward way to build her would be stacking as much defense as possible on her relic's main stats, which leans into her being a full-on shield bot. The head and hand pieces are by default HP and attack, while the body, feet, planar sphere, and link rope are all defense. While this might be the most convenient given how defense pieces just fall into your lap, when you start getting various pieces from farming relics regularly, there is the option to build other stats that improve her other utilities. For her body piece, an alternative would be getting effect hit rate. This is to increase her ultimate's freeze chance, which makes March have more reliable crowd control utility. It also synergizes with her E1 effect, which requires her ultimate to freeze enemies. There is also a planar ornament set that needs you to achieve a certain effect hit rate stat. I'll get to those shortly. For the feet piece, speed is another stat you can consider. More speed lets March take actions faster, which can let you use her abilities more often or sooner, especially before the enemies can act. This also helps you unlock a certain planar ornament set's effect. As for the link rope, an alternative main stat is energy regeneration rate. March's counterattack and taunting mechanics make her have good energy generation, so having the ER bonus piece boosts that even further, which makes her ultimate much more spammable. That leads to better freeze uptime and crowd control against your enemies, which could also lead to faster breaking against ice weaknesses. As for her substats, you basically want defense, effect hit rate, and speed. Effect resistance is also not bad to help March's own survivability, but it is a lower priority. Again, making her into a full defense shield bot is nonetheless viable and more straightforward, but I do think using the alternatives I mentioned capitalizes on her ultimate's utility and makes her a more well-rounded support, especially if you feel that her shield is already quite strong and are looking for more utility out of her. I also recommend you prioritize main stats over set bonuses first, but the right relic set will certainly maximize her support potential. Moving on to her relic sets. The 4-piece Knight of Purity Palace is basically her best set. It increases defense and strengthens shields created by the user. It's pretty much self-explanatory why it's so good. Thankfully, you get free 4-star pieces as Trailblaze rewards from level 32 to 35. By default, you get a 2-piece set for the defense bonus, and if you're lucky with the body and feet, you might get defense, effect hit rate, or speed stats, so they can stay on her long until you start getting better 5-star relics. As for the planar ornaments, there are 3 sets I would recommend. The first and most recommended is the Belobog of the Architects, which gives a defense bonus, and if you have an effect hit rate of 50%, you get another defense bonus. It's another reason getting an effect hit rate body piece and substats is a good route. The second is the Fleet of the Ageless set. You'll notice that the basic bonus is HP, which March doesn't really need, but the conditional effect is what you want, which is, if March has at least 120 speed, she provides 8% attack for your entire party to boost overall team damage. If you build some speed on March, as mentioned earlier, then it's very possible to hit that stat goal. The third is the Pan-Galactic set, which gives effect hit rate and converts the user's hit rate to attack. It's a more offensive set, so it's the least recommended for a support build, but is still a viable option. Now onto her light cones, and we have nice options for all rarities. The 3-star Amber is her most free-to-play light cone, which you can maximum superimpose easily. It has low base stats, which is expected, but its path effect increases the user's defense. The other condition is that it increases defense further if your HP is lower than 50%. Ideally, she wouldn't be at that low health to begin with, but if the situation is getting dire, at least her shielding gets stronger too. For 4-star options, there are 2 top recommendations. The first is Day 1 of My New Life, which is March's signature 4-star light cone. It increases the user's defense and damage resistance of all allies, which is simply perfect for her support role. Another option is the Battle Pass reward Preservation light cone, This Is Me, and it also increases the user's defense and adds damage to the ultimate based on the user's defense, which can make March's ultimate pack more AoE damage. It also has a slightly higher defense stat than Day 1, the highest among all 4 stars. While it is a good weapon, it is a paid option. But actually, even if you get the Battle Pass, I still would personally recommend the Day 1 light cone over this, because the damage resistance bonus is for better team survivability, which for me fits more with March's role. You can't go wrong with either of these two, but if you don't have them, you can consider these other 4-star options if they're what you have. The trend of the universal market has a low base defense stat, but it also gives a defense increase. You can also burn the enemy if the wearer is attacked, and the damage over time scales on defense. With March's shield taunt, you can help proc this by shielding herself. And another is We Are Wildfire. It gives a damage resistance bonus to allies for 5 turns and gives healing at the start of the battle, which gives some pseudo healing utility. Finally, her best light cone is the 5-star Moment of Victory. It's Gepard's signature light cone, but it also works really well for March. It has the highest defense stat, gives huge defense bonuses, and also gives effect hit rate, making her ultimate's freeze more reliable. It also makes the user more likely to be attacked, so it's likely you'll want to shield on March at most times. Lastly, let's talk about team building. One of March 7th's best strengths is just how flexible she is to fit in teams as a support. Healers and shielders are really valuable in this game for survivability, and March does the job surprisingly well despite being a free character. Once she starts shielding and helping manage aggro, she gives amazing sustain for your team. Being able to remove debuffs is also a nice plus that can have situationally really good uses. And with her ultimate's freeze crowd control utility, that's another way March can protect your team and help direct the flow of battle. Of course, March still has potentially challenging scenarios. For example, if your enemies deal a lot of AoE damage, they can already damage your unprotected allies before March gets multiple shields up. But for the most part though, I found March very reliable, and in Simulated Universe, the right blessings can make up for March's potential shortcomings. There are special teammate synergies that complement her quite well defensively as well as offensively, so let's summarize them. To start, March surprisingly complements her Preservation peers, Fire MC mostly, but also Gepard in some way. The Fire MC functions mainly as a damage sponge with offensive capabilities. They have an innate taunting ability, and their Magma Will stacks accumulate upon getting hit, which incentivizes being targeted by enemies. Combined with March, she can shield Fire MC to further increase their chances of getting hit and take all the heat, pun intended. Fire MC can also generate shields for your entire team, which can trigger March's counterattacks too. Fire MC's shield strength isn't as strong as March's, but since it's team-wide shielding, that can supplement March's strong but single target shielding. Then you're not as likely to comp Gepard and March together since they overlap a lot as ice preservation supports. However, if you want to pair them for ultimate shielding comfort, they have some synergy together too. Gepard's ultimate provides the entire team with a powerful shield, which also triggers March's counterattacks. March can also fill in some of Gepard's shield downtime with her skill if ever the shield breaks or if Gepard hasn't gotten his ultimate up yet. Gepard has freezing utility via his skill too, so he and March can make for a sort of freezing combo, and Gepard has an increased chance of getting hit, so you can combine that with March's shield taunt to aggro the enemy. If you manage to get Clara, she also has counter-attacking mechanics that works wonders when combined with March. Clara's talent makes her counter-attack when she herself is hit, and with her ultimate, she deals an enhanced counter-attack when any teammate gets hit while also increasing her own chances of getting hit. You probably can see where this is going already. March can shield Clara to increase her chances of getting targeted. This in turn helps trigger Clara's counter-attack whether her ultimate is active or not. But when that happens, March's counter-attack also triggers, which makes it a double whammy against the enemy. Another particular synergy is with Arlan. Since he gets increased damage by having less HP, March can shield him to let him do damage while maintaining his low health for the damage bonus. Just be careful since Arlan keeps reducing his own health. If the shield breaks or expires at a bad time, that might spell an untimely death for Arlan. If Pella is on the team, her bonus ability gives a 10% effect hit rate to the entire team, which helps with March's freeze chances. And if Pella's E4 is unlocked, she's able to reduce the enemy's ice resistance, which can at least give March a slight damage boost. There are also certain effects that can end if the character takes damage, like Yanqing's Soul Sink state or the River Flows in Spring's effect. So March's shield can help preserve those effects, whether by protecting the character itself or aggroing attacks away from them. Team arrangement is also important to manage splash damage from enemies. If March or another character gets hit with an attack that deals splash damage, you can minimize collateral hits or avoid getting your squishy teammates getting damaged by placing March or the character you're trying to direct aggro towards, like Fire MC or Clara, at the left or rightmost slot on the team. And that's it for this guide on March 7th. She'll probably have a special place in many Trailblazers' hearts for her part in our story. Just as March has been a constant companion throughout our trailblazing journey so far, she also makes a great teammate in the long run. So let me know in the comments if you play March 7th and who you like to comp her with. If this video helped you out, don't forget to leave a like, consider subscribing to my channel for more Honkai, Star Rail, and Genshin Impact content, and I will see you all soon. Take care!
Don't stay up all night playing video games again.